It's time for it can only be the one and the only show. It's the Luke Howard Show Live. Thank you very much. Oh, it's so lovely to be live. We started a bit late today. I like starting a bit late sometimes. It's actually quite nice, actually. But sometimes we start a bit late, sometimes we start a bit early. But it doesn't matter. Morning. It's Tuesday, the 12th of May. Another day, another show. And from now on Tuesdays, the Luke Howard Show is live. And then Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the show is recorded. So today's show is live, so we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today from NHS. But first, I just want to start off by having a bit of a moan, to be honest with you, because about the it was about Boris Johnson's speech on Sunday. Did you see it on Sunday night? So me and my mother, we were sitting there watching it, and as soon as it finished, I turned and looked at my mother and I said, "What the heck was that?" It wasn't great, was it? It wasn't very good. I didn't really think it was great at all. It was rubbish. It was a pathetic speech. Nobody knew what was going on. Everyone was thinking, what was he going on about? They actually, you know the bar theme they were doing from the 0 to 5, green and then the red? Well, they stole it from a chili from Nando's. Now, I only found this out yesterday. Now, a lot of people haven't even been listening to the rules because in Camden, North London, there's been a few pubs that have been opening up and they've actually been serving alcohol and people are drinking them on the streets. So it sounds like everyone is not listening to the lockdown rules, are they? In other words, they are, but they're not. They're not listening to Boris Johnson at all. Because it wasn't right what he said the other day, to be honest with you, and it just wasn't really, it was just not right. It was not normal. It was just, and the mountain. What about a mountain? I mean, what was all that about? Come on, really? I just couldn't believe it when I saw it. I just thought, what am I watching? What the hell am I watching? It was rubbish, absolutely pathetic. But then yesterday, don't get me wrong. Yesterday, we saw Boris Johnson in the House of Commons doing his speech, and he was finally telling us what we need to do and what we don't need to do. Because all we need to know is what we do need to do now and what we don't need to do. That's all we need to know, right? That is all we need to know. And I'm sure you all agree with me as well. I'm sure everyone agrees with me about this. It's not right, to be honest with you. Just wasn't right at all. So, but he did in the end, and he said to us what we have to do and we can't do. So from tomorrow, all garden centres will be open. A little bit of a recap here. All garden centres will be open from tomorrow, and not just that. Also, you'll be able to go out as many times as you like, and you'll be able to sit down on seats for as long as you like. I mean, I live in a little town called Buntleyford, and to be honest with you, we haven't got the virus here. I don't know anyone who's got it, because there's this thing now that you can go onto your phones and you can just put in, I think if you go onto your phones and you put in who's got the virus, I think it's something like that, you can actually find out if anyone in your area has got it or not. And we found out that no one in this area has got it at all. But it may not be true. Don't believe what you see on that website, because it may not be true. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't really believe it. My dad said to me, "Oh, I've seen it. No one's got it." It might not be true. So, don't really believe what they say, because it might not be right. So, Boris Johnson last night again did another speech live from Downing Street at 7:15. Now, I watched it before EastEnders because I like my EastEnders. So I watched it last night, and I thought, he's finally gone and done it. He's finally said what we're going to do, and well done, Boris. You finally said what we're going to do. So well done, Boris Johnson. Apart from that rubbish speech he made the other night, and then yesterday he went out there and told the world what we need to do about 3:30 in the afternoon, and in the evening he just told us what we need to do. And he took questions from the public, and he did it in the end. So well done to Boris. He started out rubbish, and then in the end it was fine the next day. But why didn't he just tell us on Sunday night? On the speech on Sunday, why didn't he just say to us what we're going to do and what we're not going to do, and I'll take questions from the public tomorrow? That's what he should have done. He should have said everything on Sunday, And then the next day, he should have, what he should have done the next day was just took questions from the public. It was a pre-recorded, on Sunday, it was a pre-recorded speech. Pre-recorded, it wasn't live, and I know it wasn't. It was a 10-minute pre-recorded one, which was rubbish. So, I don't think we're going to have any more saying on that now about that speech on Sunday night. But I did what I said yesterday on yesterday's show. It was all right. I said that because I recorded yesterday's show before the speech, so that was why. I said that yesterday. But actually, I changed my mind now because this is a live show today. I changed my mind, and I thought Sunday night was rubbish. But yesterday, he finally said what he was going to do. So well done, Boris. Well done. Let's give him a round of applause. There you go. Well done, Boris. Well done. Right, okay, so let's start off now by talking about the papers and what's in the papers today. So, we have to talk about the UK death toll then, don't we? Because should we talk about the UK death toll? Okay, it's passed over 31,000 people, and 1 in 8 hospital patients with COVID-19. It's volunteered for drugs trials. So far, 9,000 and more than 100 hospitals have been randomly assigned drugs which are used for other illnesses but shall, show promise in treat of the virus. There are Longitudinal right entry HB treatment. This is dexamethasone, inflammation, and hydroxychloroquine and Beriflin. Now, the health chiefs say that staff found recruits for the trials and dubbed recovery at a remarkable pace, but they still want, though, more than 1,000 people. And it's weak saying that we could have answers in 5 to 7 weeks. So, a year of planning and approval was crunched into, this was a 9-day to launch the trial of Oxford professor Martin Landry. He said that the drugs may not be a miracle cure, but given the large number of people affected, a modern benefit will make a huge difference. So, okay, so now let's say this, because UK firms PPE deals. So ministers have signed deals with British firms to make 25 million items of protective kit. Now, okay, so they have identified 200 businesses, would you believe? Yep, 200 businesses, I repeat, with the potential to help the effect of against COVID-19 effort, and will work with them in boost the production. So Burberry, the Royal Mint, Jaguar Land Rover and Ineos are among the homegrown firms making visitors' groans, gloves and sanitisers for NHS staff. So Amazon and eBay, which are amazing companies, are also they're using their experts in technology and logistics to help distribute the supplies to frontline workers. So other UK companies will provide 12 million square metres of fabric for personal protective equipment. Health Secretary Matt Hancock, he said that the support from businesses has been phenomenal. So well done. So nurses on the front line, they've all been saying that they are spending £250 a week on taxis and Ubers to avoid, public transport, of course. And, of course, infecting patients. The NHS heroes, including those working in intensive care, now face a mountain of travel. So death, is already struggling to get by on low pay. Now, problems are most acute in London, where staff have been asked to avoid buses and tube trains. But the funny thing about Boris Johnson's speech the other night was when he said, you must go to work but avoid public transport. How can you go to work and avoid public transport? What about the ones who don't drive? That's all I can say. But he's finally said it in the end. So one 26-year-old intensive care nurse at St Mary's Hospital in Paddington, West London, said, I can't use public transport because the risk of my patients is too high. But I've spent £100 on Ubers in these 3 days and can't go on like this. The nurse, who earns less than £25,000 a year, was spending about £15 each way on Ubers. The NHS staff nationwide have been promised free public transport, but many fear that they will take the virus to work. So a nurse who works in this is Sellafield Hospital in Coquet, Swansea, which is in Wales. She said that she was paying £125 a week on taxis from 7 a.m. shifts. She said, I fully understand why bus services have been cut, but they cancelled the services which enable me to go to work. Licensed London taxis offer up to 50% discount to NHS staff, but their fares are still beyond most nurses. And this means that Lisa Elliott from London, director of the Royal College of Nursing, she said that no one should be financially penalised for working to keep people safe. So nurses needed risk-free transport that doesn't leave them out of pocket, she said. So, yeah, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Right, okay, I want to move on to the royal family now. And I think this has got something to do with Prince Charles and Camilla, because Charles and Camilla, they safely saw a Royal Mail van, a Royal Mail letter, and it was collected by their postman. This is Neil Martin. So, the oft-forgotten part of the NHS frontline, they have been, seeing patients from most GP surgeries, and it's all been closed. So, pharmacies could be the key to unlocking mass testing and helping to ease Britain into more normal life. These health professionals can play a central role in providing home tests to everyone who needs them, just as they have ensured medicines and have been delivered by vulnerable people. We need to use every resource of our disposal if we are to win the fight. So let's make the most of these local heroes. Look at the spread of COVID-19 in isolation. You need to look at just as much as the effect of the economy, because nation's economy and its health are so strongly linked that at some point they became inseparable, and poverty kills just as usual as the coronavirus. The only reason we have got good health and live a long time is because we are one of the wealthiest nations in the world, which is true. I think America's first, and I think we're second. So the policy of coming out of this lockdown gradually over 5 years, which will be necessary if we are to keep the infection rate close to or below 1, and it will reduce the toll on life from the coronavirus, but inflict a fair greater loss of the impoverishment of the nation. The net loss of life is likely to be of the order to 675,000 lives. This is higher than over 6 years of the Second World War. The interior pandemic response is to lock down as a device for gaining time to build differences and make sure our health service was not overwhelmed was a reasonable response. But our society cannot remain under siege forever, and we need to find a way of returning towards normality. He said, I think we can more or less justify a lockdown of 2 months. This is based on the ill effects to the economy, but 3 months is too long. We now have to realise if we do go slowly and continue with the aim to keep the infection rate close to the below 1 number of deaths from the prolonged lockdown will be far worse, and we will be condemning people to significant wealth and more deaths than lives saved. His comments follow criticism of the UK approach by Professor John Klitzky, former Chief Assistant of the European Centre for Disease Control. So Professor Gliscock said that in the recent article in The Elephant, and everyone will be exposed to coronavirus and most people will become infected, but we do not see it. He said, it almost always spreads from younger people with no weak symptoms to other people who will also have mild symptoms. This is the real pandemic, but it goes on beneath the surface and is probably its peak now in European countries. There is very little that we can do to prevent this spread. A lockdown might delay severe cases for a while, but once restrictions are eased, cases will appear. I expect that when we count the number of deaths from COVID-19 in each country in 1 year from now, the figures will be similar regardless of measures taken. There we go. So amazing. But the people are though at low risk of this disease, and it should be allowed to consider voluntary infection. And a Cambridge endemic was suggested. Now, Dr. Chris Hope, a policy modelling expert at Cambridge Judge Business School, he suggested that deliberate self-infection and isolation could be a way out of lockdown. He said the group would then be able to resume something close to normal life. Dr. Hope, who was a lead author for the investment panel on climate change that shared the Nobel Peace Prize in 2007, he said it was a proof of concept to gather views rather than a recommendation. He said, as the moment people are getting exposed and recommendation at the moment, and obviously this disease gives no immunity, and it makes no sense to do it, would you believe? It takes no sense to do it whatsoever. So, yeah. Right, okay, let's finish one more story now, because I want to talk about Meghan Markle. Now, the Duke and Prince Harry, of course, and the Duke and Duchess